Good afternoon here. This is day 13 down here at Las Vegas Federal Court in the Bundy trial. I've got Shaler here with me, and I'm losing my voice from the radio shows and the things that I've been doing, so I'm going to let Shaler here help me out today. He's an observer from Idaho that's been here multiple times, a big supporter, and so I'm going to let Shaler here go over some of his notes, and I'm going to try to interject every now and then and say a few things just because my voice is pretty worn out right now. So go ahead here.
So if you remember from yesterday, they were talking about the video that occurred between Clancy Cox and was filmed by some BLM agents. And so this morning they started out in court by the attorney of Ryan Payne, Mr. Norwood. He was giving an argument that so the defense attorneys were not able to watch the video until last night, and so this morning they realized that the video that they saw didn't have any benefit to the defense. It would just kind of waste some time, and Mr. Norwood was making the argument that he was concerned if it was showed to the jury that there's a few prejudicial statements made by Clancy Cox that he didn't want, it would be better if the jury didn't see it. And so he was making that argument. The government wanted to show the video. It didn't help them out much either. It didn't really help anyone out, but the government wanted to show it because yesterday there was a comment made by Mr. Whipple, the attorney of Cliven Bundy, that possibly Mr. Shalakis, he asked the question to Mr. Shalakis, did you try to bribe Clancy Cox? And Agent Shalakis said no, but because the jury heard that question being asked, the government wanted to make sure that they covered their backs and convey to the jury that there was nothing like that in this recording. So that's why they wanted to show it, and the judge ended up ruling that could be played today. The next thing that was conducted in court was Mr. Whipple wanted to have Clancy Cox testify today. Clancy was available. He was here in Las Vegas, ready to testify. And Mr. Whipple wanted to have him testify because he remembered when he talked with him in the past a couple months ago that Clancy had talked about some sort of a bribing that occurred. Maybe not those words, but some sort of offering compensation or
clemency or compensation to turn on the Bundys.
Exactly. Information for something of benefit to him. And so Mr. Whipple was arguing for that, to put Clancy on the stand and question him. That ended up being denied, but the judge did rule that Mr. Whipple would be able to ask questions along that line to Mr. Shalakis, who was the government witness, so that he could help the jury understand. Well, he wanted to ask questions along that line that had to do with if there was a bribe that happened or did not happen.
I know the judge, she commented on this type of thing, like informants, that it's not uncommon for law enforcement to hire people as confidential human sources and such, and that so it's nothing irregular for that. Now, doing a bribe is illegal, or doing offering somebody money, as it was the other word for it. That Mr. Whipple used, it was a harsh word that they said.
Bribery?
Bribery.
Yeah.
So bribery, it's, as Mr. Whipple put it, that can't be formed as an informant. Informants are actually paid, and it's their job, and they're gathering information for for the government. So that's legal, the judge said. So she wanted to make a distinction between this. Bribery is illegal and an informant is legal. And so she wanted to make that so when they was trying to possibly offer Clancy money, Clancy Cox, he could have took it as bribery because he didn't want to do it, but they was actually trying to hire him as a informant.
So another few interesting points that happened today in court was, I don't remember if it came out today or yesterday, but I think it was yesterday, that there's a bug right there, that Mr. Shalakis, with his job, has had some training as a witness in a trial, and so he has some professional training in that area. And so with that, when he was testifying today, one of the things that I thought was interesting was he said he was being questioned by Mr. Whipple, and at one point he kept on saying, "I do not recall," like 8 to 10 times. So there is no information that came to us or came to the jury with the defense attorney's questioning, because when you know, as a professional witness with training, the best way to do it is to say, "I do not recall." And so that's what he did, and so we didn't get any information from that. I'm trying to think of the questioning that Mr. Whipple was doing.
Ryan Bundy, when he cross-examined this witness, he had some very good questions to this witness. He asked this agent things about his partner Lion, and there was other phone calls that were not recorded. So sometimes these questions, they brought this witness in because it was all hearsay. There went all the guys heading back to prison right there. I don't know if you've seen that in the camera behind us, the vans and the cop cars, but that was that noise. But Ryan Bundy done a real good job, excellent job of questioning this witness about a phone call that had taken place, and they didn't record this second phone call for some reason. This phone call on the 18th of March was a phone call that Ryan wanted to know if his phone call the previous day was recorded. This agent said no, and it was recorded, but he said no, and Ryan Bundy said, "Well, did he tell the truth? Was that a lie?" And he said, "Yes, that agent Johnson lied. Mike Johnson lied." He said, "Is it common that the BLM, is it in their policy that they can lie?" And he didn't want to answer that question, but he was forced to, and he says, "No, it's not common." He said, "Do you lie?" And he said, "No." Then he went on further to ask this agent. This was Mr. Whipple doing this part. Mm-hmm. You want to go into that? Or did you have something else?
No, I was kind of following you. Go ahead.
Okay, so Mr. Whipple asked this agent, he had a list to read off of, and this list was from Clancy Bundy. And he said he never talked to Clancy Bundy about any of this stuff, but he said, ask him questions about, did you ever talk to Clancy Bundy for one? And he said, no, not after that certain point. Then he says, did you ever talk about your ranch, growing up on a ranch in Colorado? And the guy kind of looked surprised. This hadn't been brought up yet. The government started objecting at this point, and you could tell his face color changed. And then he asked him a few other line of questions in with that, his personal life. Also, a big question was asked, did you ever tell anybody you actually was a Bundy supporter? And stuff like that. Well, the agent is definitely, at that point, had got caught. Clancy Bundy knew too much information about him. Then he went back and he said, have you ever talked to Clancy Bundy? And he's like, I don't recall. I don't remember the whole thing. You have to refresh my memory. And it's been 3.5 years, such like that.
You know, with watching the court today, that was definitely one of the highlights for me. Like John said, is Ryan Bundy questioning the witness, and when he was asking, like John said, he was asking is not being truthful while interacting with citizens' standard BLM policy. And because this witness is a professional witness, he's been in trials before, he knows how to answer in a cautious, careful, sneaky way, then he says, well, he's like, can you ask the question again? He was playing, I believe, it is my opinion that he understood exactly the question, but he tried to act like he didn't hear or he did not understand. So that happened like twice before he finally answered, no, that is not, our common practice to be dishonest. That's pretty much what I have from the
We're going to end up proving before this is over with, and we did today. He caught himself several times lying. Agent Shalaki, he was caught lying on the stand. He even admitted under oath that his partner Johnson lied. So that was some big things. We are going to bring Clancy Cox in at a later time to impeach these witnesses. So the judge would not allow it today, but she said she will allow him to testify later. She just wanted to finish with him today. The end of the day, we finished up with him, and we had 12 jurors today that had questions for this witness.
I wrote down the first one to save your voice for
okay.
So to save John's voice for one question, I'll read that. So the first juror asked the question, let me find it. Okay. Why? So they asked Mr. Shalakis, why did you not read the court orders you were tasked with? And Mr. Shalakis answered, he's like, oh, well, I think there was a misunderstanding. I originally said that I didn't read the court orders, and but he's like, there was a misunderstanding. I read them, I reviewed them, and generally knew what they said. That was his answer.
And that's a big question. This whole thing's about the court orders. And this witness was the one delivering this message to the Bundys. And he didn't even know what was in the court order, or did he know? The main thing we're trying to find out through this witness was Ammon Bundy's name on that? Was Ryan Payne's name on that court order? Was Ryan Bundy's name on that court order? It wasn't. It was just Cliven Bundy. So why are these agents going after Clancy Cox, going after other members of the Bundy family, such as Dave Bundy, Mel Bundy? Their names were not on that court order. So it was a big question from the jurors to ask that question and want to know about that court order. It still hasn't been answered to these jurors as of yet. This is witness number 3. We are finished with this witness. We're going to move on to a 4th witness tomorrow. And we've only got a half a day tomorrow to get through this witness. But we're getting pieces by pieces, but it's been a slow, painful move. But we've been getting it out, and we've been uncovering so much stuff. These other, I won't go over all these juror questions tonight, but they was more about water rights, about the cattle impoundment area, stuff like that. We had more questions about Agent Johnson lying to the about Ryan Bundy. A juror wanted to know that. So we had a total of 12 juror questions a day, and they were all good. One of them, I do want to touch on that. There was Ryan Bundy brought up a 302 report. A 302 report is used when an FBI agent or an agent of some sort is questioning a witness or questioning a potential witness of some sort. And this agent here that's on the stand had a 302 report done on him. They would not read that today in court. We have that report. The judge would not allow it to come in. And one of the jurors said, can you read that to us? We want to know what's in it. And the judge said, it's not for you to know what's in that. It hasn't become evidence right now. It's hearsay. And that's what we're hearing a lot of. Hearsay today from the prosecution. We're hearing, I don't recall. It's just like every single trial that the government's involved in. This is what we get from government employees and witnesses is hearsay evidence, is not admissible. When it is, it's not hearsay. It was actually that agent's own words, and he was on the stand, and he cannot recall half of what he needs to testify about. You have anything else?
The only other thing I'll add is there was, when Ryan Bundy was questioning the witness, he asked several questions that led the jury to be a little concerned about the ethical practices of the BLM with regards to recording people without their knowledge. Ryan had done some studying on it, I did some studying on it, and it turns out that, you know, the way the law is written, federal law and Utah law, you know, they're probably legal with recording without the other party knowing, but because Ryan Bundy was able to ask questions and communicate to the jury that the BLM agents were still being dishonest when directly asked by Ryan Bundy if they recorded, and then they said no, that didn't sit well with the jury. So 2 or 3 of the jury asked a question that was asking about, it's called one-party consent law, and so several jurors ask a question about, you know, if that's legal, something to that extent, you know, I'm paraphrasing, and those were not directly answered. The judge actually said that she will provide a legal statement to go along with that, but at the end of the day, I don't think she ever did.
She never answered it. She's going to try to provide it to him later. Yeah,
I guess, yeah.
So.
And that stuff's not lost on the jury. They know. They can see something's wrong.
Well, thanks a lot. Come on, Ken, come in here. Thanks a lot for joining me and helping me here. We got Ken here again.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask all of you, and I know John won't ask you, but you know, he goes out to the airport, picks up people, takes them back out at 4 o'clock in the morning. The other day, his car was broke down. He was lucky because the money is short here, but we got a patriot that come out and worked on his car and fixed it and didn't charge him anything. But if all of you can afford a few dollars, it would really help John out. I will ask for him because he does a lot of work here. He not only talks on his show, he goes on other shows. So we would appreciate it if y'all could send him a few dollars. Thank you.
And I didn't pay Ken to say those words.
No, you couldn't pay me to say that.
Well, thanks a lot, Ken.
Yeah.
So we had a great crowd here today. We had a lot of people show up from all over again. It was a great day. We've got people here with lights helping out a little bit. It is dark down here already. We're trying to wrap up a day. Tomorrow is probably going to be the last day of court. I don't think we're going to have any on Thursday. Looks like it's going to be wrapping up tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get my voice back. I'll get a little break. And but we'll have you some more updates tomorrow. We'll finish up this week, and then we're going to go into a long, dark week of court. It looks like we won't have any court until after tomorrow, until the 11th of It'll be the 11th of December before we have court again. So we're going to have a 10, 12 days here of dark time, whatever time that is. But thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll finish up and give you a final update on what's happening here at Las Vegas Federal Court. Thanks again.